Okay, so just got back from a ride on the V85TT, Moto Guzzi. I'm just about to put the kettle on and making myself a cup of tea, and I just wanted to do a quick video just on my thoughts on the Guzzi. I've had it nearly a year now, just on under 4,000 miles, or just about to tip over 4,000 miles. Originally I bought the bike to do the Coast to Coast America trip in August, the guided trip that I lead 12 riders, and I thought the Guzzi would be the perfect bike for that. 23 litre tank, shaft drive means low maintenance, and it's got cruise control, and I like the simple nature of it, air cooled, and I just like that it was something a little bit different to what else. I looked at a CB500X, I looked at a Tenere 700, I looked at a V-Strom 1050, I looked at even an AJP PR7, but ultimately the Guzzi came up at the right price. There was a dealer in Colchester doing them for 9,700, which was sort of £1,200 under list. He'd got a blue one in stock, and that was it. And so I don't know, midwinter blues, I just thought, buy a bike and it'll come in handy for America. Obviously America cancelled, the bike's been a bit redundant, it has been up for sale, but it didn't make reserve, so I've still got it, which is no bad thing. I do enjoy the bike. I've just been out on it today just to see someone. First criticism of it really, or the main criticism, is the lack of mudguard, which means that your alternator cover in front of your engine and everything there just gets absolutely caked in dirt, which, if you're not bothered about cleanliness, is no bad thing, but a lot of the alternator covers, or some I've seen, if you leave it like this, are starting to peel and de-lacquer, which is not good. They're not overly expensive to replace, but just a mudguard on the front. At the Aprilia Capanode Rally mudguard actually bolts straight on, and that's a common thing that people are doing if you can get hold of one, because they're pretty rare. But otherwise, I kind of enjoyed the Guzzi. I like its engine. It's not a fast bike. I think it's V-Strom 650 fast, but certainly not in the same league as a Tiger 900 or a V-Strom 1050 or anything. It feels like a 65 brake horsepower bike rather than the 79 brake horsepower it claims to be on paper. And I think the reason is mainly because it's quite a heavy bike. I weighed it with the engine guards on, the centre stand and the pannier racks, the boom up pannier racks, and it was 252 kilos. So it's still a pretty heavy bike. And then obviously you got the power that you lose by the shaft, from the shaft drive. So probably 65 brake horsepower is about what it feels. It's grunty, it's torquey, it wafts along really nicely in that sort of low to mid-range area of its torque. But if you try and push on a little bit harder, that's when you feel it a bit lacking. I've just come down the bypass around Bideford, and there was a Ford Fiesta ST in front of me who obviously saw I was behind, got a clear gap, and he gunned it, and you think, right, no problem, I'll keep up with him. And he was just starting to pull away on me, really, and I'd got my red lights flickering on the dash, and I thought, bloody hell, I can't even keep up with a Ford Fiesta ST. And it's those times like that, you just think, I wish it just got another 15-20 brake horsepower, then it would be, it would overcome that slight niggle or frustration you have. And I think it's largely due to the expectation of being on a sort of a more expensive, sizable machine. You expect performance to match it, and the Guzzi just slightly underwhelms a bit. It sounds good, and as I say, it's torquey, but it's certainly not top-end fast. There is apparently a new ECU flash that the dealers are doing that is said to improve it a little bit, and I've got to try that out. But I think one of the other things I'd like to see improved is the connection between throttle and rear wheel action. There's a bit of dullness. It's like there's not a great deal of feel off the bottom, and certainly when I've tried to ride it on dirt, you just haven't got that clean crispness that you'd like on throttle. And it's ride by wire, so you would think should be able to program it a little bit cleaner on that, a little bit of a crisper pickup, and that would enhance the bike. But otherwise, it's been a good machine. It was good around Scotland. It was comfortable. It was capable. It was confidence inspiring. It felt very sure-footed on the rough and rutted roads. The wind buffeting from the screen is a bit it's not great. There's a lot of buffeting, and so you probably want to put a big screen on, but I don't like the look of the big screen, so I'm a bit unsure as to what to do there. But I think certainly it's the character that I like about the bike. When you go around Scotland and you park it up and you look back at it, I really like the way it sort of looks and the way it feels right as a travel bike. It feels like in its natural element when you're on a trip, doing long days, not necessarily big miles, but you're swooping around Scotland, and the bike sort of just flows into that, into the trip that you're on. And As I say, I think it makes a great travel bike. I think the further you go on it, the better it gets. If you're getting it just to fly around your local residence, it's going to be frustratingly slow. But if you take it long distance, go out on it for a week or whatever, go away touring, I think that's when it comes into its element. The market was really crying out for a mid-capacity shaft drive bike, and I think this is it really. And if it had a BMW badge on it, it'd probably sell 3 times as many. I think people are still a bit apprehensive about the Guzzi badge. You know, there's a lot of stories about reliability. You know, in fairness, following the forum, the owners' forum of the Guzzi, there are a lot of niggles or few niggles. You know, there's often a gasket weeping. Somebody will have a problem with that, or there'll be a sensor failed, or there'll be a bit of oil from the final drive leaking onto the back wheel. You know, there's a few little things that creep through that seem to get fixed quite quickly by Piaggio, which is good. They seem quite responsive to that, which is good. And, you know, there's no real trip-ending dramas with it, but just maybe a few final assembly issues. But having owned an Himalayan, I'm more than used to those sort of things. The only other thing I would say, you know, this underslung exhaust, the cat here gets very hot. And so even in sort of hot days in England, it can start to burn your boot or make your leg feel very hot. So going across America, across Texas, I think it could have been quite unbearable. And what people are doing is fitting a Mistral, I think that's how you pronounce it, Mistral, Mistral system which cuts out the cat and obviously allows the bike to run a bit cooler. You don't have to do anything to the ECU or anything with that, and you don't have to mate it with a new silencer. So it's a pretty cheap way of giving the bike a bit more verve, a bit more kick, and also reducing the heat. But, you know, all in all, I've enjoyed the bike. I'm glad in a way, I'm glad it didn't sell. I didn't really want to sell it, but, you know, financially it needed to go. But it's not been sold, so I've got it a little bit longer, and we'll see what happens. I think ways to improve it going forward. I'd like to see tubeless tyres, tubeless rims. I do like a spoke wheel on a bike, but the faff of having to do a tube repair at the side of the road I'd much prefer tubeless. I just think it's more convenient, because I never see this as being an off-road bike. You know, you're not going to be ploughing this down some gnarly trail where you might bend a rim or anything. So I think tubeless would be, for me, a better solution. There was another little gripe I had. Oh, if I was improving it, yeah, maybe 15 more brake horsepower. I think 15 more brake horsepower, and it would be a complete bike. But otherwise, I really just like the simple switch gear and things. It's really easy, really intuitive. Cruise is easy to use. You've not got a lot of buttons. You've just got riding mode, which you select by pressing the starter button once the bike's started. And then that's it, really. You know, there's nothing fancy going on. The Tiger 900 GT Pro I had to test for Motorcycle Sport and Leisure. You know, you've got like 10, 12 buttons here, and your menu and a toggle, and you know, your electronic suspension, which only activated the rear, so it wasn't actually that good anyway. But you've got a full cluster of instruments and buttons, and I just felt it a bit overkill. And so I like the simplicity of the Guzzi. I think it's a nice place to be, and it's certainly. Let me see if I can fire it up. Might need knocking into neutral. I think the noise is always the thing. You know, to me, it's just a nice sounding bike. And interestingly, when I had the V-Strom 1050 to test, and the GT Pro and the Guzzi all at home to test for Motorcycle Sport and Leisure magazine, when I fired up the Guzzi, my 1-year-old at the time sort of stood up, took notice, and even he could tell there was something sort of, I don't know, of interest starting up. So, yeah, nice sounding bike, good to ride, lacks a bit of power, but makes up for it in other ways. Just to say, I've been running these Boomot panniers on it. I had them originally fitted to the V-Strom 1000 long-term test bike that I had a while back. Boomot, a Bulgarian company, and I just really like the panniers. They're a really solid, sturdy pannier, well built. The racks are nice and tight to the bike, which helps keep the width of the panniers within the bars, which I like. Got a lockable toolbox here. The lids are good because they're stiff hinged, which means you can use them as a shelf. And also they're strapped, which means you can get shoes and waterproofs in there and keep that separate for what's inside your pannier. So a really nice pannier. And just to Dorothy's Speed Shop, will be offering them for sale. So to help, well, expand the empire really, I'm going to have a few lines to sell through the unit, and one of those will be boom up panniers. So you'll be able to come down here, have a look at the panniers in person, see if they suit your style and what you're after, and then equally order them, and I can also fit them for you if you so wish. So yeah, that's it. Moto Guzzi V85TT. Not the best bike in the world, I will say that, with niggles, but certainly a good ownership experience, because every time you see it you think, that's a good looking bike and I'm glad I bought it. That's it. Over and out.